Hey guys, it's Megan and I'm back for another thrift flip. I got this huge group of artificial flowers at the thrift store. The whole group was only $8. Artificial flowers are expensive, so I totally snatched this up. It looks like somebody had planned to do a DIY with this buffalo check umbrella and then they gave up. Well, that was my gain because I grabbed all these flowers and a grapevine wreath that I already had, and I went ahead and made a new wreath for my front door, and I'm totally in love with how it turned out. First, I started with grabbing all the greenery. I wanted this to be a very full wreath, so I grabbed a lot of different types of greenery. You can see there I'm just pulling them apart. I want to be gluing them on one by one, so I want to have each individual piece pulled out. I grabbed some eucalyptus, all different types of branches. I think I had like 4 different types of greenery in this whole wreath. Then I moved on to the flowers. I obviously could not use all the flowers that I got in that bouquet on this wreath, so I had to kind of hone down my vision, and I love hydrangea and I love more muted tones, and there were some pink and blue and cream hydrangea in that big bunch that I got at the thrift store, so I just pulled all the hydrangea out and decided to go with that as my theme. I think hydrangea are a really pretty summer flower, and so this makes sense for summer for my front door. I also made sure to get all the greenery off the stems because I'm going to be using those in the wreath as well. Then I started to plan my wreath. Some people might just go ahead and start gluing right away. I am not that type of person. I plan everything out. So I planned out the whole wreath before I glued anything. And for this, I started off kind of wanting some of the grapevine wreath to show through, and then as I moved on, it ended up getting fuller and fuller with more and more flowers, and I really loved the full look. So I just took each piece and one by one stuck them into the grapevine. Grapevine wreaths are awesome because there's a lot for your glue and adhesive to hold on to, so I like using these. I've done a lot of wreaths using this type of grapevine wreath. Once I finished the pink leaves, I moved on to the blue hydrangea. Blue hydrangea are my favorite, so I'm really glad that I found some in that bunch at the thrift store. I just used my wire cutters to cut each little grouping of petals off, and I continued to plan as I went. I also used the leaves and tucked them in around the hydrangea. I chose to use the smaller leaves as opposed to the bigger ones because the bigger just seemed way too big for this scale of wreath, but I will save those for another DIY. This week I was lucky enough to be a co-host for Thrift Flip Thursday. This is a collaboration with Shayna from Robinson Repurposing and Savannah from Savvy Crafts with Savannah. Go check out their channels and everybody else in the playlist to see some awesome thrift flips from this week. So as you can see, this is towards the end of my planning and the wreath is really getting full. I used every little bit of hydrangea from the flowers that I got from the thrift store and every little piece of greenery as well. But all in all, I think it's perfect. I needed all of that, so I'm glad I had it. I took some of the more wiry sprigs and added those on the inside and outside of the wreath to give it some dimension, and then I took the leaves from the hydrangea and the eucalyptus and I added those poking in and out of the actual petals to give it some dimension going forward in that direction as well. I wanted this to not really look too perfect. I wanted it to have more of a fresh flower, realistic feel, and I think that adding all that different type of greenery and having it pop out in every which way, that is what gives you that realistic look. So here comes the fun part, or the painful part if you're like me and you don't wear gloves when you're hot gluing. I grabbed my hot glue gun. This is just a miniature hot glue gun. I've had it forever, works great. And then I grabbed a lot of hot glue sticks. I probably used 5 sticks for this whole wreath, and gluing took a while. Definitely didn't show this in real time. This took me a long time. I went through and glued each sprig, and I would put glue on the end, push it into the grapevine as you're seeing, and then once I felt like it had grabbed onto the grapevine, I would take my hot glue gun and I would add a little bit of glue to kind of reinforce where it was in the grapevine. And this takes a while, but it's worth it. I have done many different wreaths, and usually I will take floral wire and I'll actually attach the sprigs to the wreath with floral wire first, and then I'll just use the hot glue gun to reinforce and attach that wire onto the wreath. Because I had so many sprigs to fill in this wreath, I knew that that was just not possible to use wire for each piece, so I used the hot glue gun throughout. A little more painful that way. Definitely burned myself a couple times, but it turned out lovely, and it's just much more doable for the amount of sprigs that I had. You could also add some moss in if you had some areas showing through where you didn't have enough greenery, or you just wanted to like cover up where the glue was. You could always add moss in, and that's a really good greenery to just fill in areas when you're doing a wreath. And here is how it turned out. How beautiful is this? I am totally in love. I originally planned for this to go on my front door, and I staged it in my bedroom, and now I kind of like it in my bedroom, and I might need to make another one for my front door. I mean, it's just so beautiful. I love how full and realistic it looks. Definitely a lesson learned. If you find fake flowers or grapevine wreaths at the thrift store, snatch them up, because they are such a great DIY, so easy to do, and what an impact that DIY makes in the space. So let me know, did you learn anything new from this DIY? Do you plan on making a wreath for your home? I'd love to know. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.